The world of Valora Prime was calm, its skies painted with soft blue light from two suns that shone warmly across the plains. The Thalori, a gentle race with long, slender forms and silver-colored eyes, lived peacefully in tall crystal cities that reflected the suns like glass towers. For centuries they had avoided war. For centuries they had relied on treaties and alliances. They believed that reason and dialogue could solve any conflict. But peace is fragile. The day the Draskan Empire came, the Thalori finally learned how quickly everything could fall apart. The Draskan ships appeared first as tiny dots in the upper atmosphere, no bigger than stars. Within hours, the sky above Valora Prime was filled with them. The ships were dark, jagged, and alive with red lights that pulsed like veins. Their arrival was not announced, nor was it asked for. The Draskan were conquerors, and they had no interest in permission. The Thalori Council gathered in the great dome hall, voices trembling, trying to remain calm. Their leader, Elder Shivan, stood tall, but his hands shook slightly as he spoke to the assembly. "We cannot fight them," Shivan admitted, his voice heavy. "Our ships are not made for war. Our defenses are not built for battle. We must call for help." A younger counselor, Lithara, stepped forward. Her eyes glowed faintly in the hall's light. "And who will come? The Kelnari? They hide behind their trade agreements. The Brakari? They fear the Draskan more than we do. The only ones who might answer are the newcomers. The humans." The word carried through the chamber like a whisper of wind. The humans. The Thalori had heard stories about them. They were new to the galactic community. Barely a few decades since they had been discovered. They came from a death world, a planet so hostile, so unforgiving that no other species could imagine surviving there. A place of endless storms, predators, disease, and natural disasters. Yet somehow humanity had not only survived, it had thrived. To most species, humans were strange. Their bodies looked fragile, soft-skinned, and unarmored. Their lifespans were short compared to others, and yet they carried themselves with a spark in their eyes, something that unsettled the rest of the galaxy. Some called them reckless, some called them unpredictable, and some, more quietly, called them dangerous. But to the Thalori, desperate and cornered, humans were hope. Elder Shivan lowered his head. "We will send the message. We will call upon Earth. Let us pray they send diplomats, or perhaps healers. Anything to stop this war before it begins." The message was sent. It traveled across the void, carried by faster-than-light relays, a signal that cried out, "We are attacked. We need help. Save us." Days passed. Valora Prime's skies remained filled with Draskan warships. The enemy had not yet landed, but they circled above like wolves, waiting, watching. On the ground, fear spread through the crystal cities. Families gathered in their homes, wondering if the council had abandoned them. Workers left the towers and refused to return. The once bright songs of the Thalori streets fell silent. In the silence, children asked their parents, "Who will save us?" And the parents answered, "Earth. Earth will save us." High above Valora Prime, on the largest Draskan warship, Commander Vorga watched the planet below with a grin of sharp teeth. The Draskan were a warlike race, massive in form, their scales dark as iron. Vorga had crushed worlds before. This one, soft and peaceful, would fall easily. "They wait for help," his second-in-command sneered. "Do they not know?" "No one will come. No one dares challenge us," Vorga rumbled with laughter. "Perhaps. But let them hope. It will make the breaking of their spirits all the sweeter." Back on Valora Prime, the Thalori waited, and then one night, the skies changed. A single ship broke through the dark, its hull lit with the pale glow of blue engines. Then another followed, then 10, then 50, and then an entire fleet. They were not the sleek diplomatic vessels the Thalori had expected. They were not gentle science ships painted white and gold, no. These ships were armored, sharp-edged, and heavy with weaponry. Enormous carriers, destroyers, and frigates filled the heavens, their engines burning brighter than any star. The humans had arrived. At first, the Thalori did not understand. They stood in the crystal towers gazing upward, confusion filling their voices. "Are these warships?" one citizen whispered. "They cannot be. Earth would not send such a fleet. Perhaps they only come to frighten the Draskan away." But in their hearts they knew. These ships were built for war. Elder Sivan stood at the balcony of the council dome as the human fleet formed above the world. He had hoped for negotiators. He had hoped for words. But as he stared into the night sky, he felt the air shift around him. The humans were not here to talk. They were here to fight. Down in the streets of Valora Prime, young Thalori children pointed at the sky, their voices trembling between fear and awe. "They came," a child whispered. "They really came." Lithara, the young counselor, stood beside Elder Sivan, her silver eyes fixed on the incoming fleet. "You asked for help," she said softly. "And they have come. But perhaps not in the way we imagined." Sivan nodded slowly, a deep unease in his heart. "The galaxy calls them Deathworlders. I see now why. They do not come as healers. They do not come as negotiators. They come as something far more terrible. Above them, the human fleet spread across the sky like a shield of iron and fire, and the Draskan fleet, for the first time, hesitated. For the Thalori, the waiting was over. Help had come. But what kind of help it would be, none of them could yet imagine. The night skies of Valora Prime were no longer filled only with the dark, jagged warships of the Draskan Empire. Now another fleet had entered orbit, cutting across the heavens like blades of silver and fire. The humans had come, and they had not come quietly. The people of the Crystal Cities looked upward with wide eyes. The human ships were not smooth or elegant like those of the Thalori. They were massive, angular, and heavy with weapons. The Thalori had expected soft voices and gentle hands. What they saw instead were carriers bristling with cannons, destroyers lined with missile pods, and escorts covered in railgun turrets. The humans had not come to negotiate. They had come prepared for war. In the Grand Council Dome, Elder Sivan stood on the balcony, his silver eyes glowing faintly under the light of the twin suns that had just begun to rise. At his side was Counselor Lithara, her face calm but her voice tight with unease. "They are not what we expected," Lithara said. Sivan nodded. "We asked for help. Earth has sent something else. The galaxy called them Deathworlders. I begin to see why." Below, the Thalori citizens gathered in the streets, pointing upward as more and more human ships fell into formation. The sky was no longer open blue. It was filled with war machines. And though the Thalori trembled, there was also a small spark in their voices, a cautious hope. Far above the planet, inside the command ship of the human fleet, Admiral Reyes stood before the main viewport. He was a tall man, his uniform dark and practical with no jewels or decoration. His eyes carried the hard calm of one who had seen battle too many times before. The Draskan fleet faced them from the other side of the planet, their red-lit hulls glowing in the darkness. The standoff had begun. A young officer turned from her console. "Admiral, Draskan ships are holding position." No movement yet. Reyes clasped his hands behind his back. His voice was steady, carrying the weight of Earth's history. "They're waiting for us to make the first move. They want to test if we're serious." Another officer glanced nervously at him. "Are we?" Reyes looked at the display where Valora Prime rotated quietly beneath them. "We did not come across half the galaxy to turn away now. We're here because someone asked for help, and when Earth answers a call, we do not leave halfway." Meanwhile, on the Draskan flagship, Commander Vorga snarled as the human fleet spread out in the skies. His scaled fists tightened on the metal railing before him. "Humans," he growled. "The Deathworld spawn." His second-in-command shifted uneasily. "I thought they would send diplomats. Not this." Vorga's sharp teeth bared in a grim smile. "Good, diplomats bore me. These humans think themselves strong? Then we will break them as we break all others. Let the galaxy see the weakness of Earth." But despite his words, there was something in Vorga's eyes, a flicker of caution. For the first time, his fleet was not so quick to strike. On the surface, the Thalori waited. Messages came quickly from the human fleet. The translation systems worked, though the human voices carried a roughness that seemed strange to the Thalori's gentle ears. "This is Admiral Reyes of the Earth Defense Fleet," one message declared. Echoing across the Council Dome speakers, "Remain calm. You are not abandoned. You called for help and Earth has answered. We will not allow the Draskan to take your world." The word spread through the city like a wave. Families who had hidden in silence now lifted their heads. Workers returned to the streets, speaking with shaky voices. For the first time in weeks, the Thalori felt something stronger than fear. They felt relief. But alongside that relief was uncertainty. Would the humans truly be able to stand against the Draskon? Could these newcomers with their strange history and short lives really protect Valora Prime? Inside the human flagship, preparations began. Crews moved quickly through the narrow halls, loading weapons, checking systems, and readying dropships. Marines, men and women in dark armor, stood in lines as commanders briefed them on the mission. "Our objective is clear," one officer said firmly. "The Thalori are civilians. They have no weapons, no defenses. The Draskon want their world. We are not here to let that happen. We are here to show the galaxy that if you prey on the weak, you answer to Earth." The Marines nodded. There was no hesitation in their eyes. To them, this was not just another battle. This was duty. Back in the council dome, Elder Shivan listened as the humans sent instructions to the Thalori leaders. "You must remain in your cities," Admiral Reyes ordered. "Do not attempt to fight. Stay inside shelters. Our fleet will handle the enemy." Shivan turned to Lithara, his voice low. "Do you hear them? They do not ask for our help. They do not ask us to stand beside them. They tell us only to stay out of their way." Lithara tilted her head. "Perhaps that is their way of protection. Perhaps they fight so we do not have to," Shivan sighed. "Or perhaps they fight because it is all they know." Above the planet, tension built. The human fleet and the Draskon fleet floated like two storm clouds facing each other across the sky. Finally, the silence broke. A single Draskon cruiser moved forward, its engines burning red. It crossed the invisible line between the fleets and locked weapons. Admiral Reyes's voice echoed across the human flagship. "So they've chosen. Orders, sir?" His officers asked. Reyes's eyes narrowed. "If they want war, then they'll have it. Activate the fleet. Show them what happens when they threaten those under Earth's protection." In the crystal cities, the Thalori watched the sky ignite. Beams of light streaked through the heavens as the first shots were fired. The Draskon cruiser roared with fire, but it met the guns of 3 human destroyers at once. Explosions lit the night brighter than any star. Children clung to their parents. Families gathered on balconies. And everywhere, voices whispered the same words. "The humans are fighting for us." The battle had begun, and Valora Prime would never forget the day the Deathworlders arrived. The skies above Valora Prime burned with fire. The first exchange between the human fleet and the Draskon had broken the uneasy silence, and now the heavens themselves seemed to tremble. From the streets of the crystal cities, the Thalori watched in awe and fear as streaks of light crossed the sky like falling stars. Every flash, every explosion made their hearts jump. For a people who had avoided war for centuries, it was almost impossible to believe what they were seeing. Peace had been their way of life. Disputes were solved with words, not weapons. But the humans, these Deathworlders, were different. They did not hesitate. They did not ask questions. They met fire with fire. On the human flagship, Admiral Reyes stood steady as reports came in. Enemy cruiser destroyed. 2 more moving to flank. Shields holding. But they are probing for weaknesses. Reyes nodded, his eyes calm. "Keep formation. Don't let them draw us apart. Remember, their size means nothing if we cut them down piece by piece." To outsiders, it might have seemed strange how composed the humans were in the face of such a mighty enemy. The Draskon ships were huge, like black mountains floating in the void, glowing with red lights. Yet the humans did not see giants. They saw targets, and targets could fall. Inside the Draskon flagship, Commander Vorga snarled as he watched the first of his ships explode under human fire. "How can this be?" one of his officers hissed. "Their fleet is smaller. Their technology is not as advanced as ours." Vorga slammed a scaled fist against the control rail. "Do not underestimate them. They come from a world where even the ground itself tries to kill them. They are not soft like the Thalori. They are not patient like the Kelnari. They are predators. Treat them as such." But even as he barked his orders, unease spread among the Draskon crews. The humans fought with a level of intensity they had not expected. Every shot was precise. Every move was calculated. There was no hesitation, no mercy. On the ground below, the Thalori Council gathered in the dome, their eyes wide as the battle filled the skies. Counselor Lithara whispered, "They are not like us. Look how they strike without fear. Look how they move together as if one mind." Elder Shivan's voice was heavy. "They are showing us what it means to come from a death world, where survival is not granted but taken. I begin to understand why the galaxy fears them. The council fell silent. None could deny what they saw. As the battle raged, the Draskon began to deploy ground forces. Dropships broke away from their fleet, streaking downward like burning meteors. Their plan was simple: overwhelm Valora Prime from below while their ships distracted the humans above. But the humans had already anticipated this. From the carriers, human marines launched in dark armored transports. Their vessels were smaller and less decorated than the Draskons, but they moved with speed and precision. They did not scatter. They descended in perfect formation, every ship protecting the next. The Thalori citizens in the cities gasped as the first human dropships entered the atmosphere. Trails of fire marked their path as they rushed to meet the invading Draskon. On the plains outside the capital, the Draskon landed first. Massive soldiers stepped from their transports, towering over the ground with their scaled armor and heavy weapons. They roared as they marched toward the city, certain of their victory. Then the humans arrived. Their ships touched down with quick precision, and squads of marines poured out. They were smaller than the Draskon, their bodies less imposing, but their movements were sharp and focused. They spread across the field, taking positions, covering one another. Their voices echoed through comms, short and clear. Squad Alpha, left flank. Bravo, lay down covering fire. Charlie, prepare rockets. The Draskon charged with brute strength. The humans met them with strategy. From the crystal city walls, the Thalori watched as the first clash began. Energy blasts lit the fields as Draskon weapons roared. But the humans did not stand exposed. They rolled, took cover, and countered with fire so quick and accurate that the Draskon fell in numbers greater than anyone had expected. A Thalori child clutched her mother's arm. "They are so small," she whispered. "How do they fight giants?" Her mother could not answer, but her eyes widened as she saw the truth. The humans did not fight with size. They fought with endurance, coordination, and fearless resolve. On the battlefield, a squad of humans pressed forward under heavy fire. One Marine, his armor scorched from a near hit, shouted through his helmet, "Keep moving. They're bigger, but they're slower. Don't let them pin us down." The humans advanced step by step, never giving ground, never scattering. The Draskon roared in anger, swinging their heavy weapons, but their sheer size made them easier targets for the humans' quick strikes. Explosions shook the field as rockets tore through Draskon ranks. Smoke rose, and through the haze the human soldiers kept moving. Commander Vorga received the reports with growing rage. Ground forces falling back, multiple units destroyed. Humans are pushing forward. Vorga slammed his claws against the control panel. Impossible. They should be crushed already. But even as he raged, deep inside he knew, the humans were unlike any enemy he had faced. They did not retreat. They did not surrender. Every loss only seemed to make them fight harder. In the council dome, Elder Shivan listened as reports came in from human commanders. The humans kept sending calm, direct updates. Ground secured. Enemy pushed back from capital perimeter. Civilians safe. No Thalori casualties reported. Shivan leaned back, his hands trembling slightly. He whispered almost to himself, "They fight not just to win, but to protect." Lithara turned to him. "Do you see now? They may be fierce, but they do not fight for themselves alone. They fight for those who cannot." Shivan nodded slowly. "Yes, and that may be the most frightening thing of all." As night fell on Valora Prime, the first day of battle ended. The sky still burned with distant flashes as the fleets clashed above, but on the ground the humans had held the line. The Draskon, for all their strength, had been forced to retreat back to their ships. The Thalori cities remained untouched. In the streets, citizens whispered to one another. The humans stopped them. They are not destroyers. They are protectors. Perhaps the galaxy is wrong about them. On the human flagship, Admiral Reyes looked at the battle map. Casualty reports scrolled across the screen, but so did victories. "They underestimated us," Reyes said softly. "They thought Earth would send diplomats. They thought we would plead. Instead, they found out the truth." His second-in-command looked at him. "And what truth is that, sir?" Reyes's eyes hardened. "That when humanity fights, we fight to the end. Not for conquest, not for glory, but because someone asked us for help." On Valora Prime, Elder Shivan stood once more on the balcony of the council dome. He gazed upward at the night sky, still glowing faintly from the battle above. "The Deathworlders," he whispered. "The galaxy calls them that with fear. But perhaps we should call them something else. Beside him, Lithara asked, "And what is that?" Siobhan's silver eyes reflected the stars. "Our shield." The sun rose over Valora Prime, but it could not warm the tension still lingering in the air. The first day of battle had ended, yet the conflict was far from over. Smoke still rose from distant plains, and the crystal cities shimmered faintly under the orange light. The Thalori watched with quiet awe as human marines moved among the streets, assisting in setting up defenses, organizing shelters, and ensuring the civilians remained safe. For the first time in weeks, the Thalori could breathe without immediate fear, but their relief was mixed with curiosity. How could these small, seemingly fragile beings hold off the mighty Draskan Empire? On the outskirts of the capital, a group of human instructors gathered with Thalori volunteers. Elder Siobhan had agreed to send some of his people to learn basic defense techniques. The humans worked patiently, demonstrating simple formations and warning the Thalori how to observe enemy movements. "This is not about strength," one human officer explained, her voice calm yet firm. "It's about position, timing, and understanding your enemy. Watch, learn, protect your people." The Thalori had never seen war this way. In their history, conflict was rare and usually ended in negotiation. Now they watched humans move quickly and efficiently. Every step, every decision seemed deliberate. One young Thalori named Mirel tried to mimic the humans' movements. She stumbled at first, but quickly gained confidence under their guidance. Her silver eyes sparkled with determination as she realized that even someone small could make a difference. Above the planet, the Draskan fleet watched, confused and frustrated. Commander Vorga had expected the humans to tire, to retreat, perhaps even to negotiate. Instead, the human fleet had reorganized overnight. Small squads patrolled the skies with deadly precision, protecting the cities while striking back at the Draskan ships that tried to linger too close. "They are still here," Vorga growled. "They do not retreat. They do not fear us." "How can this be?" One of his officers tilted his head. "Perhaps. They fight differently than any race we know. They do not rely on power alone." Vorga's eyes narrowed. "Then we must adapt. Strike harder. Strike faster. Show them no mercy." But the humans had already anticipated this. Their formations were flexible. Their strikes were coordinated. Every attempt by the Draskan to break through was met with strategy, not brute force. On the ground, human engineers worked with Thalori builders to strengthen the city's defenses. Walls were reinforced with energy barriers, and observation towers were set up to give early warning of any enemy dropships. Humans explained how to detect patterns in enemy behavior, how to predict attacks, and how to remain calm under pressure. Elder Siobhan watched silently, absorbing every lesson. He had feared the worst when the Draskan first arrived. Now he realized that the humans were not only fighting to protect them, but also teaching them how to survive in a dangerous galaxy. Counselor Lithara leaned close. "They are showing us how to be strong without fighting blindly," she whispered. Siobhan nodded slowly. "Yes, and in doing so they are making us partners in our own defense. This is far beyond what I imagined." Meanwhile, small clashes continued along the edges of the city. Draskan raiding squads attempted to test the human defenses. Rockets streaked through the sky and energy blasts lit the plains, but each attack was met with coordinated resistance. The humans did not merely react, they controlled the battlefield. Thalori observers were astonished. A squad of human marines had blocked a Draskan advance with minimal resources. They used terrain, calculated angles, and clever maneuvers to outsmart opponents far larger and stronger than themselves. It was not brute force. It was intelligence, discipline, and courage. Mirel watched one encounter closely. Her heart raced as she realized that even without heavy armor or giant weapons, skill and teamwork could turn the tide. Commander Vorga's frustration grew. Every attack, every attempt to intimidate the humans failed. Casualties mounted for the Draskan, and their strategies seemed increasingly desperate. "They adapt too quickly," he snarled. "They are not normal. They do not respond like any enemy we have faced. We must retreat and rethink," but it was too late. The humans had already begun pushing forward. They did not wait for the Draskan to rest. With small strike teams moving from city to city, they cleared the outskirts, forcing the Draskan back to their ships. From the council dome, the Thalori could hear reports over the communication networks. Each report brought a mixture of relief and amazement. "They are winning," Lithara whispered. We are actually safe," Siobhan's hands trembled slightly. Safe, yes, but not because we fought, because they chose to fight for us. As the day wore on, the humans began training the Thalori in more advanced tactics. They taught them how to use energy barriers, how to create decoys, and how to observe enemy behavior without being detected. The Thalori, who had once relied only on hope, now had the tools to survive. Small victories began to mount. Draskon's supply lines were disrupted by human strikes. Dropships attempting to land were destroyed before they could reach the ground. The skies and the plains were no longer a domain of fear. They were a stage for calculated, intelligent defense. Morel, now confident in her abilities, led a small team of Thalori volunteers to assist in reinforcing key positions. They moved with purpose, following instructions from the humans, and slowly, a sense of empowerment spread among the citizens. Commander Vorga could not ignore the reports. His fleet had suffered losses he had never anticipated. The humans did not just fight, they planned, learned, and adapted. Every failed attack made the humans stronger while the Draskon began to falter. They are changing the battle itself, one officer admitted. Vorga's eyes burned with rage. Then we will adapt faster. Prepare for total assault, but the humans were already ready. They had studied every move, anticipated the strategies, and adjusted their defenses. The Draskon had become predictable in their desperation, and the humans exploited every weakness with precision. By the end of the day, the balance had shifted. The Draskon were no longer advancing. They were retreating, carefully avoiding the full might of the human response. The Thalori watched in disbelief as their invaders, the same ones who had filled their skies with terror only 2 days before, pulled back. The streets were alive with cautious celebration. Families emerged from their shelters. Children laughed softly as they watched human engineers and marines work together with their own people. Elder Shivan addressed the council and the citizens, his voice steady. The humans have shown us that strength is not only in the body. It is in courage, in discipline, in unity. Today we have seen what it means to survive when the odds are against us. Counselor Lithara added, her voice filled with wonder. And we have learned how to fight, not with violence, but with wisdom and preparation. Above the planet, the human fleet maintained vigilance. Small patrols continued to protect the cities, while strike teams targeted remaining Draskon positions. Admiral Reyes monitored the battlefield from his command bridge, noting progress with quiet satisfaction. They have learned quickly, he said to his second-in-command. They will not be helpless anymore. The officer nodded. And the Draskon? Reyes' eyes narrowed. They are realizing, too late, that the galaxy may not underestimate humans again. Night fell on Valora Prime, and for the first time in weeks, the city felt safe. Fires from the battle were extinguished, and the crystal towers glimmered in the starlight. The Thalori knew that more fighting might come, but they also knew that they had allies who would not abandon them. Mirel looked at the stars, her heart filled with awe. They are different, she whispered. We called them Deathworlders, but maybe they are something else, something we can rely on. Elder Shivan joined her, his gaze steady. Yes, they are protectors, and they have taught us that we can also protect ourselves. The turning tide was not just a shift in battle, it was a transformation. The Thalori had been shown what it meant to survive against impossible odds, and the humans, with their calm determination and fearless strategy, had proven that when they chose to fight, they could change the course of history. The first light of dawn stretched across Valora Prime, glinting off the crystal towers and the reinforced walls that now protected the Thalori cities. The planet was quiet, almost serene, but the signs of the recent battle remained. Smoke curled in thin streams from distant plains, and cratered fields marked where the Draskon had landed. Yet amidst the damage, life had returned. For the Thalori, the day felt like a new beginning. The humans had fought not only for them, but with them. They had not just defended the cities, they had taught the Thalori to stand, to observe, and to act with purpose. In the streets, Thalori citizens cautiously emerged from their shelters. Children ran with laughter, mimicking the disciplined movements of the humans they had watched from afar. Adults spoke quietly in awe, recounting how the humans had turned back the Draskon assault. Elder Shivan stood at the balcony of the council dome, looking over the city. Counselor Lethera joined him, her silver eyes reflecting the morning light. They have done more than protect us, she said softly. They have changed us. We are not helpless anymore. Sivan nodded slowly, his gaze fixed on the horizon where the human ships still orbited. Yes, and we will carry these lessons forward. The galaxy will see that even the smallest people can survive if they learn to fight with wisdom. High above the planet, the human fleet maintained orbit, scanning for any remaining Draskon forces. Small groups of Marines were still deployed across strategic positions, ensuring that no surprise attacks could occur. Inside the flagship, Admiral Reyes reviewed the final reports. Draskon forces had been driven back completely, their retreat orderly but cautious. Casualties for the humans had been minimal, a testament to their planning and precision. They fought well, Reyes said quietly to his second-in-command, but more importantly, they adapted. They learned from us. They can defend themselves now, the officer nodded. And the Thalori? They will survive, Reyes replied. Not because we fought for them, but because we taught them to stand alongside us. That is the real victory. On the ground, small teams of humans worked with Thalori engineers to rebuild damaged structures and restore basic services. Energy barriers were calibrated, observation towers manned, and evacuation routes clearly marked. The Thalori had begun taking part actively, learning not only the mechanics but the thinking behind every decision. Young Mirel, who had first watched the humans in awe, now led a small group of Thalori volunteers. They practiced drills, reinforced barriers, and prepared for any future threat. For the first time, she felt capable of protecting her home. One human instructor approached her. You've learned quickly. Keep practicing, and soon, you'll be able to defend this city as well as we can. Mirel's silver eyes shone with determination. I will. I want to protect my people, just like you did for us. Commander Vorga watched the retreating Draskon ships from his flagship. Rage burned in his eyes, but so did a reluctant respect. They are stronger than we imagined, he muttered. Not just their ships, but their strategy and their will. His officer leaned close. Do we attack again? Vorga shook his massive head. No, not yet. The humans do not fight like other species. If we challenge them again, it will not be easy. Let us regroup and learn before we face them once more. Even in retreat, the Draskon could not forget the lesson. The humans had shown the galaxy something new, an entirely different way of fighting. In the council dome, Elder Sivan addressed the Thalori people for the first time since the humans had arrived. His voice carried a mixture of relief and awe. Today, he began, we have witnessed something extraordinary. These humans, whom some feared, whom others called Deathworlders, have not only defended us but have shared with us the knowledge to survive. They have shown courage, discipline, and a will that cannot be broken. Counselor Lathara added, and they have taught us that we too can stand, that even a gentle people like us can protect our homes when we combine wisdom, preparation, and unity. A wave of quiet applause spread through the dome. For the first time, the Thalori felt not just safe but empowered. The humans gathered their forces for departure. Their work on Valora Prime was done, but they left behind more than repaired cities. They left knowledge, strategy, and hope. Admiral Reyes addressed the Thalori leaders. We cannot stay forever. Other worlds will call for help and Earth will answer. But we leave you with this. You have learned to defend yourselves. You have learned to survive. Use it wisely. Elder Shaven bowed respectfully. We will remember this day, and we will remember you. Not only as warriors, but as teachers, as protectors, as friends. As the human ships lifted off from the crystal cities, the Thalori watched them move into the stars. Their minds were filled with awe, their hearts with gratitude. What had seemed impossible only days before, surviving the Draskon assault, was now reality. And the galaxy they knew had witnessed something extraordinary. For the first time, the Thalori began to understand why humans were called Deathworlders. Not because they destroyed, but because they survived where others could not. Not because they conquered, but because they protected. In the distance, the Draskon fleet retreated into the void, silent and cautious. Their encounters with the humans had taught them a painful truth. The galaxy had changed. There were new powers to consider, and Earth had announced itself clearly. On Valora Prime, the crystal towers gleamed in the morning sun, reflecting the light like 1,000 mirrors. Life was returning to normal, but the lessons of the battle remained. The Thalori now had courage in their hearts and knowledge in their hands. They would never forget the day humans came to their world. Mirelle, standing atop one of the towers, looked to the skies. "They are not just warriors," she whispered. "They are something more. They are hope." Elder Shivan joined her, his gaze following the departing fleet. "Yes, they are hope. And today we have learned that hope, when combined with courage, can change everything." The story of Valora Prime spread quickly across nearby star systems. Whispers reached other worlds. Earth does not send diplomats first. Earth sends those who survive. Earth sends the Deathworlders. But for the Thalori, the story was different. To them, the humans were not invaders. They were not destroyers. They were protectors, teachers, friends. And for the first time, the Thalori understood a truth that would stay with them forever. When humans fight for you, they fight to win. And when they choose to protect, they do not stop until the threat is gone. The galaxy would never look at Earth the same way again.